Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you wanted to read books in the original language but you thought that you're not fluent yet and you can't do it, it's not true. I've noticed that some books are way easier to read than the others. So in this video, I'll give you book recommendations based on your English level. So without further ado, let's get to it. Let's start with pre-intermediate. And the first book I'd like to recommend is It Ends With Us. This book just screams elementary. Let me read some lines from this book. "How are you?" I ask. She signs dramatically. "Fine," she says. "Your aunt and uncle went back to Nebraska this morning. It'll be my first night alone since..." "You'll be fine, Mom," I say, trying to sound confident. As you can see, it's so simple, and the writing style is very gripping, so you won't be able to put this book down. But warning, this book kind of romanticizes toxic relationships, so I wouldn't take it seriously, but this book doesn't have any complicated vocabulary or idioms, phrasal verbs. Plus, it's very addictive, so you won't be able to put it down, and you will breeze through this book. And this book I would recommend if your English level is pre-intermediate. The second book is You've Reached Sam. This is my last read, and I found it as well so simple, maybe because it is aimed at teenagers. So the storyline is very easy to follow, but I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it maybe because I'm in my 20s and I found it kind of superficial, because first of all, I wanted a good cry. I wanted a good cry, and the plot of this book is that she loses her loved one. They're both teenagers, but he dies, and then she's very desperate to reach him, and she calls him and he picks up. So this is the premise of the book, which I found should be very tear-jerking, but it wasn't. With that being said, again, the plot isn't complicated. Everything is well structured and has absolutely simple language. It will be so easy to read, this book. The next book is The Six of Jones. I'm from the future. I was editing this video and I realized I completely messed up the name of the book. It's Daisy Jones and the Six, and I messed it up with the next book, The Six of Crows. Well, that's how dumb I am. Okay, sorry. This book, not only this is so interesting and gripping, and again, you will be so hooked, you would finish this book in one sitting. This written in a kind of form of interview. This book is about very famous music band that was absolutely big in 70s or 80s, but suddenly they break up, and no one kind of knows the reason why they suddenly broke up at the peak of their popularity and fame. And this book is written in this interview kind of way, so you can see the lines of every character. It's incredibly easy to follow. The next level is intermediate level, and the first book I would like to recommend is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I love this book. It's what makes it so easy to read is that it's fast-paced. This is about Evelyn Hugo, that was a huge star, and the book is set in modern days, but it tells a story about a famous actress who worked her way from the ground up, and of course this is a story about her fame and how she became popular and the cost of it. And you got sucked into this Hollywood atmosphere, old Hollywood 80s, 70s, 60s. If you want to learn more about idioms, about some interesting expressions, I would also recommend this book if your level is intermediate. The next book is Normal People by Sally Rooney. It's one of my favorites. This book brought me so much comfort, and I would love you to read it if your level is intermediate. What makes it a little bit harder than pre-intermediate ones is that it's more or less descriptive. So there are a lot of descriptions of places, feelings, and a lot of thoughts are written, but it's very emotional, and it's a coming of age story about on and off relationships. I would recommend this book if you're in your early 20s trying to navigate the life. Next one is upper intermediate. The first book I would like to recommend is I'm Glad My Mom Died. This is my favorite book ever. It's a memoir. This is a whimsical book. It's hilarious, but at the same time it's poignant, and you get a glimpse of this famous life, because we think that famous people are happy, they have everything at their disposal. Nickelodeon actress that tells the story of her life and what she went through and abuse she went through. What I loved about this book in terms of English, that it starts very simple, because she tells the story of her life from the very beginning, from when she was 4 or 6. And the book is written the same. She kind of grows up throughout this book, and you can get used to the language. It starts very simple, and then it kind of grows in difficulty and complexity, so you can get used to the language. The next book I'd like to recommend for upper intermediate is Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is more of a teenage book, but I love this one. What makes it maybe a little more difficult to read is that it has a lot of this crime vocabulary, like custody, murder. I have found out recently that it's going to be adapted into the movie, and I'm so stoked for the adaptation, because actress from Wednesday is going to play the main character, and I think it's just a perfect fit to play Pip, the main character. She's a high school student who is doing her homework, and she's trying to unravel this mystery that was closed a lot of years ago, and she solves a crime mystery. So if you're in this detective kind of stories, this book is just perfect. The next book for upper intermediate learners is The Song of Achilles. I love this book. It's a mythological retelling of a Greek story about Achilles and Patroclus. Well, anyway, it has a lot of Greek names, a lot of vocabulary about those Greek times. I can't even recollect. That's what it makes her a little bit difficult for an English learner, but it's a great challenge. And this book, is about Trojan War, specifically about this connection between Achilles and Patroclus, and it's a love story that is so heartwarming. You would devour this book, I guarantee. The next book is The Bell Jar. This book is written in 60s, so the language is kind of outdated a little. It doesn't have up-to-date vocabulary as previous books. And this book, again, about this coming-of-age story in 70s and about mental health. And the main character struggles with her mental health, even though she won a scholarship in New York and she has everything that anyone can wish for. She finds herself falling down this rabbit hole of self-deprecation and uncertainty. I would definitely recommend this book. Our last level is advanced English level, and the first book I'd recommend is Before Coffee Gets Cold by a Japanese author, and this book has a lot of complicated vocabulary, and this is translated, so maybe there is something to do with that. Let me read a couple of lines from this book. Well, you're completely ruled out. Again, she was deflated. Okay, so it's not me, he said sulkily as he trudged back to the counter. The girl seemed to find this amusing and let out a cheeky giggle. rolled out, deflated, and this vocabulary is in every paragraph. If you are lacking in vocabulary and you want to enlarge your vocabulary, this book is for you. You'll find a lot of new words, modern, amazing words. And the story is fantastic. I love this book. It's so heartwarming. It's a slight fiction. It's about this cafe in Tokyo that you can visit and talk and sit at a specific seat and talk to your loved one in the past. But there's a couple of rules, and one of them is you have this opportunity to talk to someone in the past only before your coffee gets cold. And if it does get cold, I won't spoil anything. Read a book. And the last one I would recommend is The Six of Crows. This is a fantasy. So if you are an advanced English learner, fantasy books, I think, are the books for you. Not only this book has complicated plot and hard to follow, it does have a lot of complicated vocabulary in it, a lot of phrasal verbs, idioms, calculations, and I struggled reading the book because I wasn't familiar with the vocabulary that describes magic and like castle and so on and so forth. So this is gonna be a challenge for you. It's a fiction, it's a fantasy about magic. You'll love this book. That's it. If you like this video, give this video a big thumbs up and write a comment if it's positive. That will mean the world to me. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!